Welcome to Reality Vault Channel. If you love unexplained mysteries, hidden history, and stories that make you question what you thought you knew, you're in the right place. Before we go further, hit that subscribe button, because what you're about to hear connects to something even stranger later in this video. One door, sealed for more than 4,000 years, and when it finally opened, nobody in the room said a single word. That's not an exaggeration. That's exactly what happened. A stone slab was buried deep inside one of the most studied structures on Earth. It sat untouched for so long that entire civilizations rose and fell without anyone knowing it was there. When modern scientists finally found a way to look behind it, what they discovered raised more questions than answers. Let's start at the beginning. In 2016, a group of scientists and engineers launched a project called Scan Pyramids. Their goal sounded simple, but in practice it was nearly impossible. They wanted to look inside the Great Pyramid of Giza without breaking a single stone. To do this, they used a technique called muon tomography. Muon radiation is made up of natural particles that constantly rain down from space. These particles can pass through solid rock, almost like light passes through glass. By tracking how the particles move through the pyramid, researchers could map hidden empty spaces deep inside the structure. Spaces that had never been seen by human eyes. David, a 38-year-old historian from Arizona, had spent nearly a decade studying ancient Egyptian architecture. He wasn't part of the official research team, but he had followed the Scan Pyramids project since it was first announced. Later, he said, "Every stone in that pyramid has been studied for 200 years. The idea that something was still hiding in there felt almost impossible to believe. But the mystery was about to become even stranger. In 2017, the muon scans revealed something nobody expected. A massive void, nearly 100 feet long, located directly above the Grand Gallery, one of the most famous chambers inside the pyramid. This wasn't a small crack, and it wasn't a tiny gap in the stone. It was a space large enough to fit an entire airplane, and it had been sitting there, completely sealed, since the pyramid was built. Researchers gave it a name, the Big Void. But naming it didn't explain it. Nobody knew what it was for. Nobody knew whether it was a hidden chamber, part of the construction process, or something else entirely. Emily, a 29-year-old investigative journalist from London, flew to Cairo as soon as the discovery was announced. She had covered archaeological stories before, but this one felt different. She later said, "I remember standing outside the pyramid and thinking about how many people had walked past this exact spot for thousands of years, never knowing there was an empty space above their heads the size of a commercial jet." Most people have never heard this part of the story. The Big Void couldn't be reached through any known passage. There was no door that researchers could simply open and walk through. The only way in, if there even was a way in, would require finding a hidden entrance somewhere else inside the pyramid. And that meant going back to something almost everyone had forgotten. Decades earlier, in the 1990s, a small robot had been sent through a narrow shaft inside the pyramid. The passage was barely wide enough for a person to crawl through. The robot eventually reached a dead end, a small stone door, a door carved with 2 copper handles, a door sitting exactly where nobody expected one to be. Researchers drilled a tiny hole through it. They hoped to find a hidden chamber on the other side. Instead, they found only a few inches of empty space. And then, another door. A door behind a door. For years, that second door became one of the biggest mysteries in Egyptology. Some researchers believed it led to nothing more than an empty construction gap. Others believed it was hiding something far more important. The ancient builders may have hidden something they never wanted found. Carlos, a 51-year-old former military officer from Texas, became interested in the case after retiring from active service. He had spent years working with reconnaissance technology, and the pyramid's hidden doors reminded him of something he understood well. He said, "Whoever built that second door wasn't trying to hide empty space." He added, "People don't seal off nothing. They seal off something they don't want disturbed." That single clue changed everything. In 2019, a new mini-robot equipped with a tiny camera capable of bending around corners was sent through the same narrow shaft. This time, researchers were trying to see what was actually on the other side of the second door. It was the first attempt in more than 4,000 years. Then, things became strange. The camera revealed hieroglyphic markings that no one expected to find in that location. Faint red markings, believed to be quarry marks left by the original workers, were visible on the walls beyond the door. These were not decorative symbols meant for a tomb or burial chamber. They looked like construction notes that ancient builders might have written to communicate with each other. The builders probably never intended anyone to read them thousands of years later. David called this discovery a message frozen in time. Emily described it as reading someone's private notes from 4,000 years ago. Carlos focused on another possibility. He said, if those are construction marks, then this door might not have been built to protect a treasure. He suggested that it might have been built to protect a process, a technique, or even a secret about how the entire pyramid was constructed. This theory created an entirely new mystery. For centuries, historians have debated how the ancient Egyptians built the Great Pyramid using the technology available to them. Some theories involve massive ramps, others involve complex pulley systems. A few fringe theories suggest technology that we do not fully understand today. However, these fringe theories remain speculation and are not supported by mainstream researchers. Most Egyptologists agree that the pyramid was built using sophisticated but understandable ancient engineering. They do not believe anything beyond human capability was involved. The hidden door added a new layer to the debate. If it truly leads to information about construction methods, it could rewrite parts of history. However, there is something important to know. The area behind the second door has still not been fully explored. According to the most recent updates from Egyptian archaeological authorities, the passage is too narrow and too fragile for a full physical excavation. Tiny robotic cameras have provided glimpses, but not answers. The big void above the grand gallery, the door with copper handles, and the mysterious markings beyond it remain only partially understood. This is where fact ends and theory begins. Fact: the big void exists and has been confirmed by multiple independent scanning methods. Fact: a second sealed door exists deep inside the pyramid and blocks further access. Fact: ancient quarry markings have been observed beyond that door. Theory: some researchers believe the void may connect to an undiscovered chamber containing new information about the pyramid's construction or purpose. Other researchers believe it is simply an internal structural gap created during the pyramid's construction. Speculation: a small number of independent researchers have suggested that the space could contain something never documented in mainstream Egyptology. This idea is not supported by peer-reviewed evidence. Most experts consider it highly unlikely. We mention it only because it is part of the public conversation surrounding this mystery, not because there is proof behind it. Emily returned to London, still thinking about what she had seen. She said, the strange part wasn't just the void itself. She added, it was realizing how much we still don't know about a structure that has been studied more than almost any building on Earth. She asked, if there is still a sealed door inside the most famous pyramid in the world, what else are we missing? David agreed, but he focused on something different. For him, the significance was not necessarily what was behind the door. It was the fact that the ancient builders went to such extreme lengths to seal it in the first place. He said, You don't carve copper handles onto a door unless you expect someone to open it eventually. He added, that door wasn't meant to be permanent. He believed that someone was supposed to come back someday. Carlos offered the final piece of the puzzle from his perspective. Having spent years analyzing structures built for concealment, he pointed to something that is often overlooked. He said, in my experience, the most heavily protected spaces are rarely the most valuable in terms of treasure. He added, they are the most valuable in terms of information. He believed that whoever built this structure wanted control over who learned the truth and when. As of now, the mystery remains unsolved. Egyptian authorities and international research teams continue to explore non-invasive methods to look further inside without risking damage to the 4,000-year-old structure. New scanning technology is being developed. It may one day allow researchers to see clearly through solid stone without needing robots or drilled holes. Until then, the second door remains closed. The markings remain a mystery. Deep inside the Great Pyramid, a space the size of an airplane continues to sit in complete darkness. It waits for someone to finally understand why it was built. Here is a question worth thinking about. If ancient builders went to such extreme lengths to seal something away by building a door within a door deep inside the most studied monument in human history, was it meant to protect something valuable or something dangerous? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, share it with someone who loves a good mystery. Subscribe to Reality Vault so you do not miss what we uncover next. This video was created for educational and entertainment purposes. The information presented is based on publicly available sources, historical records, scientific research, and documented theories. Some topics discussed remain unsolved or debated. Viewers are encouraged to do their own research and consult reliable sources for further information.